Peter, delighted that you've agreed to join me and Steve.
Oh, no worries. Thanks very much for wanting to speak to me.
Yeah,
do, so that's nice. Thank you.
Good to speak to you, Peter. Yeah, great.
Yeah. You both all right?
Yeah, both fine, mate. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to focus on your book, Little at 100. But before that, can you just tell us a bit more about yourself? How you got into writing? What's your background? I know you're not that old anyway, but do you have a background apart from writing?
Well, basically, uni. It was never something I thought I'd do. I just did history in uni. I actually went to do primary teaching with history, and Liverpool Hope was the only place you could do history and teaching. And I was pretty sure I wanted to be a teacher, but it never materialized. So I ended up just doing history on its own. So at the end of the 3 years, obviously you get to do a dissertation, and I just wasn't sure what I was allowed to do. And I just kind of said off the cuff, am I allowed to do something about footy? And they said, yeah. So I just didn't realise that I'd be recognised as academic or whatever. So I did that. I did it on Liverpool and Everton in the interwar period, and just why people were spending the money on football when they had no money, basically. Thought uni was all right. So I stayed on for the masters and did similar for the dissertation. And that I did Shankly and Catterick, basically like late 50s through to the 60s, early 70s, and just kind of just said like comparing both of them again and just saying like why Shankly is so well known, and someone I'd never heard of Harry Catterick, and they both had a pretty similar record. Obviously I'm from the red side, which might be why, but I just was interested how like they can have such different legacies with being on paper pretty much similar like success rate really. So I just did that, and then once I finished that, I realised basically that I had a bit of work that my dad and all his mates and people his age might be interested in. So I just kind of chopped it up and sent it to Liverpool and Everton websites. And they just said they liked it and said, will you do some more? So I just carried on going. And I thought that I don't just want to be like Mr. Merseyside or Mr. Liverpool. So I tried to broaden it a bit. And I thought I was seeing what other websites can I get on. And I just tried to target what programs I can try and get in. And then it just kept growing really. And then as I kept writing, it was Dave Cottrell, who was the editor of the Liverpool programme. He just said to me, why don't you try and do a book? So I thought, okay, why not? So me and my dad came up with like 3-4 ideas, and one of them was about Billy Liddell. So that's what took off, and that's I think why you're talking to me now.
Brilliant. That's superb, isn't it? I mean, because you are undoubtedly a lifelong Liverpool supporter, I assume, with probably a season ticket as well.
Well, been on a waiting list since 2001, but I haven't missed a home game.
Me then. A bit like me.
Yeah, that's it. The last home game I missed was 𝙃𝙪𝙣𝙙𝙚𝙚 hat-trick against United, so it's not like I don't go. So I still go every home match. I just I'm waiting my turn patiently. I think I might be up in the gods of the Annie Road end when that's finally done, but I think hopefully I'll be in by then.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It just goes on forever and ever, that list. And, I got an update the other day with my number on it where I'm down. Well, actually, I've moved down about 7,000 in a few years, so that's some progress. But anyway, it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it.
Keep waiting.
I mean, I must admit, if I was in your position, I think I'd have ended up just being so biased towards Liverpool. It was untrue. But, of course, you can't afford to do that. And and it's good that you did that with Harry Catterick and Phil Shankly. That was superb, and you got the balance right across Merseyside. But then, you're right to diverse out there and go around and look at different channels. And I see you've written an awful lot for other clubs as well. You mentioned Fulham, Watford, Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday. You can't get much more diverse than places like Port Vale, can you, and Southend. So a good mix of clubs there. How did you manage to get into them?
Just all 92 clubs in England and every club in Scotland. I just emailed them all in the pre-season and just said, any chance I can write for you? Obviously, I dreamed of being able to get paid for it one day, but I thought, if I just keep building a portfolio up and I can say that I've written for all these clubs, I thought that was a good way about it. And one of the first ones who said yes, which was strange, was Liverpool, but whether that was just because I'm supporting them and they obviously could tell that or whatever. But I was at the same time I was emailing League Two clubs, I was emailing the Premier League, and the Liverpool one of them, and they both said yes. So it was just kind of my plan to just try and, not like they don't matter, but just try and take off as many as I can and just try and say, well, I've written for them, and just see what happens from it, really.
Oh, brilliant. It must be good content, mustn't it, if they've picked it up, you know what I mean? So there you go. Sorry, Terry, go on.
No, I was just going to ask is, how did you get the publishing deal? Did you write to the publishers and say, look, I've got this material, or did they commission you? How did that work?
Well, I had a possible ghostwriting opportunity. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say still who it was, but
go on. No one's watching. There's only me and Steve.
Well, I'm still got a mild hope of it might come back, so I'll just I'll keep it on the back burner. But so basically through that, I think obviously the person's name, he was obviously an excellent player, retired in the Prem, so he was like a relatively big name. So I was just thought I would use that name and see who I can try and write the book for. And through all those people, they were all obviously madly interested, and I got contacts, and obviously that never really materialized, but I had those names and emails and whatever sorted. So I basically just did the same again and just said, any chance you'd be interested in this? And obviously pitch where we're straight in for it, and they just said, yeah, just do it. So you just have to basically submit your chapter overview and your ideas behind the book, and yeah, they liked it and just went ahead from there, really.
Brilliant.
How far does your attending Liverpool games go back, by the way? Do you I'm not sure how old you are, so going back to 2005, that epic final, where were you then?
Well, I was in year 5 in primary school, so I watched it at home. My dad was there, and I watched it with my mum at home. So I remember at half time saying to her, we were definitely going to win. I wouldn't feel the same now. I think I was a bit young and a bit naive, but I just said, yeah, I remember just watching it with her and saying, we're still going to do this. And obviously we did it. And I remember my dad, he got the flight back. I remember seeing the next day after school, and he was there. He was absolutely knackered. And I remember just running and giving her a big hug, and then we went to homecoming and all that. So yeah, it was probably a little bit too young to fully appreciate it because I was still in primary school, but I definitely remember what a night it was and all those nights leading up to it as well.
So based on that then, what obviously including that game, you may have been a bit younger, I know. So what would you say was the best game that you've ever, mind you, no, all right, best game you've ever attended? So that's probably fairer, isn't it? So what would you reckon? Because there's been a few epics, Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, at Anfield, and many others.
Yeah, lucky enough to be both of them. I think probably first one you think of probably was West Ham, just the FA Cup final, because I was so young then, and I just remember my dad had given up and I hadn't. Again, maybe he's still a bit too young. And then probably I always go to the one where we nearly won the league when we beat Man City and Coutinho scored, because I thought that was the time I thought we were going to do it, that game. And I remember walking down the Kop and I could hardly hold myself back, and I knew it wasn't done, but it was the thought of what might follow. You'd say maybe again that United one for the season when we did win the league, when Salah scored late on, because that felt like the game we'd clinched it, although it was still so early. But probably it will have to be Barca, that just that comeback, you can't beat it, can you? And obviously you haven't lost a final or played in it. You just got the promise of it's all good if you win, and then you've just watched that game in front here. And Gini Wijnaldum second, I don't think I've ever been happier in my life at that moment. That I just jumped down about 5 rows of seats, and it was mad. It was, if I could go back to any moment in my life, it'd definitely be that one. So that's got to be the best game I've been to as well.
I was working at Arrow Park Hospital that day. The day of the match, one of the lads at Keane Everton supporter, he kept playing the Barcelona theme music all day on his PC. The next day, a few of us got in early, and we put You Never Walk Alone to Blair out as soon as he logged in. It was unbelievable. What a brilliant night.
Oh yeah, I had some reason I had full faith in Origi. I had the Origi hat trick in my head. I had no doubt he was going to do something big, and obviously he ended up scoring the third one. The fourth and the first one. So I was only 1 goal off, but yeah, I just thought it was going to be his night, and I just thought I did have a really positive feeling about that one as well. I just thought, you know what, they're going to think that we're half the team that we all know that we really are, and obviously we proved it. And when Anfield's like that, you can't beat it, can you?
Yeah. Did you have a bet on him? Did you have it to bother?
No, I did have on. What was it? Was it the quarterfinal we played City? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And I think I had Salah to score first and was to win 3-0. So that wasn't a bad bet for the quarterfinal. So
that was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty good one. Yeah,
but he had a quid on it, but
going up to your book, why did you pick Billy Liddell in particular? I know it's a great subject. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it, but why did you pick Billy? Because there's so many you'd chosen from, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, There's a few reasons. I think the family connection was obviously a big one. That my my auntie does Scottish dancing with his sister, and obviously they'd met before, and that was a big reason to do it. Really, we'd seen Rena a few times, Billy's sister. I actually saw her after the Barcelona game. That was one of the times she still goes to match, and remember seeing her and giving her a big hug after that. I'm just, it was never like it was ever discussed, but it was just thought, why not do it? Because me and my dad were just trying to think of a few ideas, and that was one of them. As well as that, it was, I think he's probably the best player who isn't properly known in Liverpool's history. I don't think there's anyone better than him that so many of our fans don't know. So I thought it worked well on that front, just maybe to bring him back to the limelight and help. Obviously, it was nearly his 100th birthday as well, which also helped. So it was all just kind of rolled together. And obviously, from what I'd done in my masters on Shankly and that, it covered a bit of him leaving as well. So I'd already done a little bit on it before. Obviously, nowhere near as much as I was going to have to do, but I'd already spoken about them, and it was just a few reasons really, and it just felt like the right time to do it. And thankfully, the publishers agreed, and everyone who wanted to help me also agreed as well.
And you got some great quotes at the beginning of the book, from the great ex-players. I know you got in touch with me to ask if you can get in touch with my uncle Jimmy Melia, who played in Shanks team in the 60s. And I've saw the little paragraph you've got from him there in the beginning. Was that difficult getting all those responses, all those kind words back from the ex-players?
Well, I think it's testament to Billy that so many of them wanted to help me. I think obviously if it was just for me, I don't think they would have done it. But I think, saying it's for him and it's his 100th birthday, it definitely helped get them on board. And there was a lot of people like yourself I had to go through to try and find the people I was trying to get in touch with. So I was searching Melia's and on Birkinshaw's and everything on Twitter and trying to find everyone I could. And so that's what put us in contact. And it was just persistence, really. Just keep trying. People saying, "Oh, you'll never be able to get to speak to them," but then you speak to their other cousin and they can put you in touch or whatever. So just kept trying, and to say, I think people were just happy to talk about him, because obviously of him being 100, a lot of the people he played with probably in his prime weren't around to be able to speak to. But I think people who were coming through in the club obviously had probably grown up watching them, then had the chance to play with him. I think they obviously all probably appreciated what it was like to play with Billy Liddell, and they were the ones who were happy enough to help me.
Did you speak to people like George Scott, who was the one of the never team, if you like? He never quite made it, did he? Did you speak to George?
Yeah. He was one of the people who helped me. He was he was great. So obviously being a Scot as well, I think that was a big help, because you realise it's not just the name of Liverpool, and obviously Liverpool weren't what they were now, definitely. And for someone to be playing for Scotland who was playing for Liverpool and also in the second division, it kind of put Liverpool on the map up in Scotland more than anything, because obviously it wasn't the Wales game like it is now. So to have a big player like Billy playing for Liverpool definitely would have helped spread the word. And George said he knew what he was coming, what a name Billy Liddell was, and obviously Bill Shankly was obviously a big reason as well. But to have both of them obviously would help any young Scot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously doing your research took you a long time. You obviously got some help from the club themselves. Did you speak to the historian at the club, the guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, it's gone. The guy who runs the music. Sorry?
Stephen Doan.
That's him.
Yeah. I did speak to him. He helped me with quite a few pictures and stuff like that. He actually did help me with my dissertation before I managed to get in touch with him, and he was a big help on that. And he basically, there wasn't too much he could provide in terms of it was just basically what they had on file. So it was programs and pictures, and the club themselves put me in touch with Alan Banks, who played for the reserves quite a lot, played for the first team about 8 times. But the club definitely were helpful. It was obviously, from them, all they can do is pass my message out. So it's just, I'm pretty sure they did that, because Alan Banks got back to me. I just sent a list of the people who I knew were still alive and had played with them. Basically just went through the LFC history website and just went one by one to try and find everyone who played with them. And so the only person I got off them was Alan Banks. But they definitely were a big help with programs and other pictures and stuff.
Yeah, but Pete, you'd agree that there's a world of difference today between the youngsters at the academy in Kirby. I was there's a local McDonald's nearby. No, there's a Costa rather. And I was watching, there's a load of kids came in, well, they're very tall kids at 14, 15-year-olds. they had a minder with them, and they had a minibus outside to take them, you know, the half a mile from the Costa back over the road to the academy. And I'm thinking back to reading the likes of Tommy Smith's biography, where he was saying that, like, Bill Shankly, he had him cutting a steel girder for a week using a hacksaw. That was like, that was his training.
Yeah, now they go on the Costa instead. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he had them
bad,
painted, didn't he, on the cop and
Yeah.
doing the toilets and all sorts. And, you know, imagine asking them to do that these days.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think some clubs got to make a bit, didn't they? I think that's why they've had to fully stop it, because they were calling them for child labour and stuff, where you were cleaning their boots and everything. But I think, it's obviously you're gonna be a bit more grounded if you're cutting up steel and girders, and you are getting a free cappuccino, aren't you? So it's probably either way. But yeah, it's just different times, you say. But you know, the level of football in the reserves is a lot higher than it is in the 23 today. So, you know, you think, although it's great now that the academy is obviously in KB, and obviously all the training of the first team and every age group's together. But I think because of COVID, they haven't properly been together yet, have they? I don't think it's been the full thing that they wanted to do. But yeah, it's a totally different time and everything. But I think probably back in their day, they'll be better prepared for their career in football than these lads will today, probably.
The reserves, I remember as a teenager back in the 60s, early 70s, I used to go every other week to watch a reserve game. You'd have the top players. The style at the time was buy a player, put them in reserve for 6 months, get them to know the system. So you'd see top players, you know, as they're coming back from injury. And you get like, you get a good few thousand there at Anfield just to watch the reserve games.
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me, especially when Billy's career was going towards the end as well. Obviously, that was where he got most of his game. You know, Phil Taylor was the one who initially dropped him, and the gates were dead high whenever Billy was playing in Anfield, because obviously, you know, he was still a club legend, and everyone wants to go and see him play. So it doesn't surprise me. Obviously, you'd go and watch Liverpool home and away. You'd watch Liverpool, then Liverpool reserves, or you'd watch Liverpool then Everton. That was the thing that I think most fans did, and with travel being probably more expensive and longer, it wasn't many who could travel home and away with them. So, you know, you'd have a choice of whether you watch the reserves or you went to watch the other side. So but it's definitely a much better standard of football, as I said, in the 23s. And, you know, we even see now, like the women's football, I think the last 2 games have been on the same time as the men's, which because of the TV and that, like, you can't watch the reserves or the under 23s and the first team at the same time, can you? Because Liverpool can literally play any day of the week now, so you can't judge and say, oh, well, I'll make a ritual or start going to both. It's hard to do it, isn't it? Obviously, which again is to the detriment of the young and older players, or the new players who are getting blooded in.
Yeah, it's quite annoying. I used to go, because when the under 23s played at Prenton Park, it's only around the corner from me. So I used to go and watch those. I'd go and watch the ladies, and then go and watch the first team on a Saturday or a Sunday, whatever it was. But now, as you say, they clash all the time. So I couldn't go to the last 2 Liverpool ladies games. I'm hoping to go this Sunday though, because they're playing Lincoln at Prenton Park. So I'll be able to go to that because we haven't got a game. So that's good. But all the under 23 games are now at the academy, aren't they? So yeah, it's a bit far to travel for me for them. Like,
well, that's it. It's hard to. You obviously you want to support the club as much as you can. It's just getting increasingly harder to back everyone as much as you want to, other than just the first team, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
PC, you get a lot of support from I know there's loads of different various Liverpool groups, isn't there? You know, supporter groups, fan clubs, fanzines.
Yeah.
Are you getting backup from these organisations?
Yeah, well, there was the big one that helped me was the Facebook group, LFC Historical, LFC History Site. Is they're on Facebook, and they were massive, and it's ran by Kieran Smith, who wrote the Untouchables book with Jeff Golden, and they obviously both of them were a big help for me with my book. And just even if you just throw a question on the head, it's nice to there's a lot of older Liverpool fans in the nicest way possible who have seen Billy play a lot more than obviously I ever have, and it was nice to just say, I've just found this clip from an interview with anyone who the person interviewing is, or what year it could be, or even just saying who watched Billy Little play. And just obviously I tried to interview as many fans as I could, so just that was a great way to get in touch with people. And obviously, you know, they've helped every time I put a post out there. Obviously happy to share it, saying how long till the book was out or whatever. So yeah, they were a big help. And I tried to get in touch with pretty much every fan club that we had around the world. I sent an email to just saying like if they're interested, and obviously think it was the Norway one. They were a big help. They did a big feature on me in the magazine, and they like sent it over to me, and there'll be a poster and everything. So they were lovely, and yeah, it's just you want to spread the word. I'm not very good at like. Well, I feel like I've done it quite a lot, but I'm trying to cool down now. Just trying to like, you don't want to just keep going on about yourself, the book, just trying to make it look like you're trying to make money, but you think that obviously they're all Liverpool fans, and you think the story's good enough, probably little, that you think that enough for them would be interested and would want to read it and would probably enjoy it. So that's just the reason why you try and spread the word, and hopefully, you know, anyone who has done it, because I know it's going to be the people who know him or who remember him will want to read it, but it's maybe trying to get the other people who don't know him that well, they're the ones who probably should read it, because they'll then realise his legacy within the club and why he was on the front of the programme the other week, and why we should be celebrating his 100th birthday.
Absolutely, yeah. So based on that book then and how it's going, have you got any plans for another book, and who's it going to be based on?
Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of my next two. I'm trying to.
All right, cool.
I've set myself a goal of trying to get 5 published before I'm 30, and I'm 27, so I haven't got long to go.
Wow.
But I'm thinking if I just try and smash it off, I'll get them done. So I'm supposed to be doing the players who have played for Liverpool and Everton. That should be coming out, February next year. So yeah, a year and a month. And I'm doing another one. It's not fully sorted yet, but it's going to be an autobiography or whatever, working with someone on Willie Stevenson. He's going to be doing I think he just was interested in sharing the story of his life. So hopefully we can get that all sorted. That's just in the process of getting, basically, dotting my I's and crossing the T's, as they say, and hopefully you can get both of them done and try and do them both together, get them out for the next year, and once they're done, try and get another 2 going, which is what my plan is. So fingers crossed I can get that done.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a tough ask, I think. You know, it's a couple of years. You'll have experience of that, Terry, writing your book, and most people, I think, lucky if they get one a year out, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I've done one in 5 years for me. So talking about writing, Peter, is it all just non-fiction that you're into? Have you ever thought of straight having a go with a fiction writing, you know, with a football theme?
I've never really thought. I know that Jeff Golden did the book with the Liverpool fan and the Everton fan through the years, and it's never. I've got it from my dad, and he said he really enjoyed it. I never thought about anything like that, but I have thought, you know, that idea might work, but I don't know, I'd feel a bit nervous doing it. I don't know how good I'd ever be at it, but you know, maybe one day. I'd never say never, but I think
some people would argue that it's, in a way, it's easy to write, you know, like a reference-based book, although you've got to put the words in the right order to make it a compelling read.
Yeah,
but you've got that sort of rich tapestry of the history behind. And you've got obviously got a massive readership. You've got a huge audience out there.
Yeah, well, let's see. Maybe if I get a few more books out and get a few more people interested, and maybe one day, you know, I did stuff like that at school, but never done anything since. I don't know how good that'd be. I'd have to give myself a couple of goes and see what it's like and do it for the sake of it. But yeah, well, not something I probably thought about. But yeah, I'll have a think.
Well, you've got plenty of time to think about it. Like you say, you're not even 30 yet, so the world's your oyster pretty much, isn't it? Yeah. Just wanted to ask you about Empire of the KOP. Are you really heavily involved with the organisation of that, or they just ask you to join them? Because I notice you do some column stuff for them. I think Stan Collimore's another one who does the odd minute here and there on their site as well. I just wondered what that was about, or you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's what I do full time now. Obviously, I always wanted to be able to say I was doing football full time, and thanks to Empire of the KOP, I am really. It's I'm down as like freelancing, but it's basically a full time job I do with them. So I work like 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, just doing that basically. So it's just getting the articles out. It's obviously it's a little bit of a different style of writing than what I was used to. It's like shorter form, and obviously it's not. It's more about the current team and it is historical base, but it's writing about Liverpool every day, so you can't really knock it. It's better than when I was working in the property places I was in and working in offices. It's a lot more that, you know, a lot more on the same line of what I want to do in the future. So yeah, I basically some freelance as well. I can write for other websites, and it's not like I have to run it past them as long as I'm doing the shifts I'm given. So it's just, yeah, that's basically what I do full time now. It's just sit on my couch or sitting here and write about Liverpool all day.
Brilliant. Can't go wrong with writing about Liverpool. It's great, isn't it?
No.
So,
Peter, is the book, is it available on audio, or is it just hardback only?
Just hardback. A few people have asked me, and to be honest, I do a lot more of mine. If I read books, a lot more of them are through audio than I do reading. And I'm not sure whether I have to they do it, or they have to say, do you want to do it, or whether I can just pitch and say I'll do it. So I don't know how it would work, but yeah, if I probably I should ask first, but I would like to do it as an audio book myself. I think that's how, especially obviously I work from home now, but when I was going to work, every day I'd always put a podcast or something on, and you get bored of the music quick, and you run out of podcast quick. So it's good to have a book, because it kills the travel time there and back in the car or wherever you're going, doesn't it? So I think it's a good way of digesting it.
Yeah, you obviously published a lot of articles for other clubs. Are they based on current teams, or were they based on older archive stuff? Is it all newer stuff, or is it a bit of a mix?
A bit of a mix, really. I tried to basically I say to them, like, what you want me to do, which obviously would be the big thing for them. Like the Watford one, they just said they wanted a few Christmas articles, just pick a few games. So I just picked 5 games in the history, and I don't think they expected me to go as far back as I did. I did some like 1800s and stuff, but I just think it's good to, like, remember that, the club isn't 10 years old. Well, not many are, so it's nice to try and go the full way back. But a few of them obviously just say, we've got this team coming up. You just say what their recent form's like and stuff like that. And I worked for like a betting website for a bit, which was just basically, you just had to preview a game and say how the form's been, and not to say what I thought was going to happen, but basically just that was all very current stuff and looking at injuries. And then I've done just a lot of variety of stuff, really. And I had like a weekly thing in the Macclesfield programme, and that was basically previewing the team that was coming up, but trying to look at like someone from their history or someone who played for both teams. That was quite an interesting one, because you can mix it up as much as you wanted to. But yeah, it's just whatever they want to do. I always prefer to do it like the historical edge on it, but whatever they're interested in is what happens.
Cool, brilliant. Yeah. Must take a lot of research. Mind you,
it's not too bad.
Yeah. I mean, research into Billy's book must have took them, must have been horrendous, because it's a lot older than you are, so you had to do a lot more searching, I suppose, and speaking to different people. But excellent stuff.
Well, my argument is that most of the people who know it all are all dead if you do it far back enough. So no one can prove you wrong. So
no one can sue you.
Yeah, if you do it about 100 years ago, you're pretty much safe. Yeah, so
it's a fair comment, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. But Peter, I'm thinking that the most, or in the past, or pre-COVID certainly, the most contact that people had with ex-footballers was sort of after dinner speaking engagements. I know a lot of mates, they're extremely popular. I've been to loads of them, and they just tell you the old stories, talking about old football. An absolutely brilliant night. Have you ever thought of getting involved in anything like that, just for, sort of as a marketing exercise, to get the work out there? Is that back on the cards, that after dinner speaking? Would you know? Sorry, about 3 questions in one there.
Yeah, which one do you want first? No, not that I would never thought of it for myself. I don't think that people would be that bothered about listening to me, but obviously I know that I've heard obviously that a lot of people used to do it. I think my girlfriend's dad, he always said that they used to have it in one of their clubs, and he used to go, and obviously you get a different player every year, and obviously you can see the same player a couple of times. He might tell a few of the same stories, but when it goes to the Q&As and stuff, it always freshens it up, and they'll have an act, but it's always good that you can interact with them. And I think it'd be something I'd love to do if people were interested, but maybe a few more under my belt I could do. But yeah, I think to be able to listen to them firsthand is obviously great. Just even myself, just having the phone call with them, which is obviously what made it into the book, to be able to speak to them. Obviously, for myself, from the football I've watched, be able to speak to Jamie Carragher and have him on the other end of the phone, and you can ask him whatever question you want. It is amazing to be able to do that. So, and I think there's probably one proper one I've been to with my dad, and we did the evening with Kenny Dalglish, and he did my question first, Actually, my middle name's Kenny, which I think might have helped me get up the list. So that's what I went in with. My dad called me after, and I just asked him like what it was like to have the centenary stand named after them. So just to do that, it's amazing to be able to interact with them. So I could see why it'd be really good. And yeah, if anyone was ever interested, I'd be more than happy to do it. But I don't think people want to pay to listen to me, unfortunately.
You've been involved in a couple of events, haven't you, with footballers and attendance?
Yeah, and my I was part of the LDSA, Liverpool Disabled Supporters Association. I was secretary of them. And I also looked after the social side, arranging their events. So if we had a player come into the event, I'd speak to him beforehand, or arrange to get the player through the person, the player appearance manager and all that. So when I got heavily involved with that, and then you'd speak to the players beforehand, and I'd interview them on the night. So I've had some biggies, as you know, Terry. I mean, I did Luis Suarez and Martin Skirtle, 𝙃𝙪𝙣𝙚𝙚. And the list goes on, and it was absolutely fantastic. And the only one I got a little bit starstruck over of all people was Luis Suarez, and I just thought he was that brilliant at what he did for Liverpool, and I was almost starstruck, but it normally doesn't bother me, things like that. But yeah, great experience to speak to so many players in that environment. Gini Wijnaldum and Marco Grujic were the last two I did before I not resigned, step back, if you like, let someone else carry on, if you like. But yeah, both brilliant. Well, every one of them's brilliant. I didn't have one that was bad. John Barnes was obviously another good one. Very knowledgeable guy, and very popular guy. So yeah, it was good. And so I know where you're coming from when you're talking to footballers. It's just immense, isn't it? And the knowledge, and because you're all like-minded people, aren't you? So you're talking about football, something we all know about. So you've got a common theme, both of you at once. So it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely trumped me off a few bigger and better than mine. But yeah, it is amazing to be able to speak to them. So who was your best then? Who was the best one you spoke to? There's no bad one.
Yeah, I've got to say Luis Suarez, because I had him laughing his head off. Because what I tried to do when I introduced him, I spoke in Spanish in his native tongue, or tried to. Anyway, I had rehearsed this. Welcome to our party for this evening. I hope you enjoy yourself while you're here. Something on those lines. Anyway, I'd rehearsed it, got it spot on the night, and made a complete cock up of it. Anyway, he's there, but his bouncer was with him, and the pair of them were creased up laughing because I'd made a mistake, but they knew exactly what I was trying to do. Yeah. And the audience didn't have a clue because I'd said it in Spanish and they're all English. 200 people in the audience. So he's laughing his head off. I'm laughing my head off because of the mistake. And it was just so funny. And it sort of broke the ice, and he was brilliant all night. We had a laugh all night then, and he was perfect, and then he put it all on his Twitter account afterwards. So I was buzzing because his Twitter account was followed by how many millions? I can't remember now. It's been a while, but so yeah, that was probably the best one. Yeah.
That's not bad, eh? Yeah. Let you off that one.
Yeah. I went to an after dinner speech with Howard Kendall was speaking. And at the time, I think there was headlines saying that he was an alcoholic, and the bin men were talking about how his bins were full of empty bottles. And he told a story about, he said he just signed Paul Rideout, I think his name was. He said the chairman turned up one day, they're watching the training. And he said to Howard, who's that over there? He said, that's Rideout. You told me to sign him. He said, I told you to get dried out.
Yeah, I saw Howard Kendall a good few years ago as well, and
he's entertaining, isn't he?
Yeah, he was brilliant, to be honest. He was on the wine, he was renowned for that. But he had a comedian with him, and they only picked on me to get up, and when they get someone up and take the mickey out of him, it was me, wasn't it? So I'm there for 15 minutes getting battered, and you can't say anything. You've just got to accept it and have a laugh. And it was funny, but typical, but yeah, he was good. We had Howard Kendall into Radio Clatterbridge as well for 2 hours, and he was absolutely superb. Really, really good. Yeah, well, unfortunately, then he passed away, didn't he? But, yeah. All right, another one I went to was Phil Thompson. And it was at Anfield, actually, and it was after we'd won the 2005 Champions League final, and I went to this night with him, and he was telling this story about when he was in a lift with Ian Snowden, the former Everton player. And I just happened to know Ian Snowden as well. So this night, Phil Thompson's sharing this story about the lift and how he scared Ian Snowden into getting out the lift and running off, sort of thing. Anyway, next time I saw Ian Snowden, and it was at a sportsman's evening in one of my locals, Ian Snowden told the same story, but twisted it round so Phil Thompson had run off. So I think it's a bit of poetic license, isn't it, to, you know, get the audience laughing. And I said to Snowden, Snods afterwards, I said, well, Phil Thompson tells a different story to you. And he just laughed and he says, well, he would do, wouldn't he? And the next time I saw Tom, I said the same to him, and he wasn't letting on which was the right story. So I think it's poetic license, and they all do it. But as long as it makes a good story, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
It's funny though, isn't it?
Great. Yeah, it's great, Peter. Can we ask you? I know I've got a big thing behind me, if you can see it. Well, how can people get hold of your book? Where's it available?
Behind you.
Nice one.
Well,
it's Amazon. Yeah.
But yeah, it's on Amazon and all that, and WH Smith, Waterstones. I did a thing in Waterstones as well, and I think there's still a few of the signed copies there. It's in Pritchard's in Crosby Village as well. And it's on my website, which is obviously the best way for me, but whatever way anyone wants to get it. But if you just search me on Twitter at Peter Kenny Jones, or if you just search that on Google, you should be able to find me. And I've done like signed copies, and some of the clubs and some of the biggest games he played in, they've given me permission to reproduce some of the programs from them. So I've got like reproductions of that. I've got his younger brother's autograph book, and so just, you know, you can get them as well on there if you're interested. And but yeah, whatever way you want to get hold of it, is obviously it's good for me, but that's the best way. And but yeah, it's on a lot of places. Obviously, you can get it directly from Pitch as well, which is what the website is behind you there as well.
Yep. What I'll do is, when we finish this, I'll put all the links together as well when I post this out on YouTube. Be tomorrow probably.
Yeah.
But I'll put all the links where it's available for you.
That's boss. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I saw them on your website last night. Was having a quick look through it, and I gathered they'd be on sale in the obvious ones like, you know, Smiths and Waterstones. When did you do your chat at Waterstones then? Pre-pandemic, was it? Or
it was, the book came out on the 8th of November, so it was just like that weekend where I was, like the 10th or the 11th. So it was just like a few months back. So it was it was quite good, didn't it? Like, I didn't really know what to expect. Like, I was sat on the stage with someone who got in to host it with me, and did a few questions, read a bit out, and it was, I've obviously never ever done anything like that before, but I think it went quite well. I went for a few pints after, which helped. So but yeah, it was that was really good. And I did like a signing in Pritchard's and Crosby Village, and then I went to Taggy's, the bar by Anfield.
Yeah.
We did a little like charity fundraiser for Alzheimer's Society, because that's what Billy passed away from. And I managed to get like a few signed pictures and shirts off from like the Carragher Foundation, and there's a lad on Facebook who does all like autograph runs, and he got me stuff in, and I had Rena, his Billy's sister, and we did like a Q&A again there. So yeah, I've done quite a few things, and it's been good to just obviously see that people are interested and want to speak about it. And obviously I feel like I know quite a lot about them because I read it all and researched it all. So it's nice to be asked the questions. And you know, if I finished it feels like ages ago, so you feel a bit rusty on it, but it's just nice to be able to go back to it almost and just say, you know, remember like obviously what a great player he was and how enjoyable it was to learn more about him and his career.
Yeah, I've been to a few book signings and book events at Waterstones actually, with various authors from, you know, different genres, and they're quite an intimate setting. You know, you may only get 30 or 40, 50 people there, but it's a good means of having a chat, you know, almost informal chat about your book, especially if you've got a host asking you the questions. And I thought it was really good. And I suppose then you go around and speak to all the audience afterwards. I found most authors do that. And they sell quite a few books based on the back of that. You know, everyone wants to buy a book and then get you to sign it or whatever. So yeah. I think that's a good way of doing it, isn't it? Did you find that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Like, obviously, it was my sister who said, she used to work in Pritchard's, and she just said, oh, you should reach out to a few bookshops. It's not something I really thought of. And I just said to them, oh yeah, we'll definitely have you in. And yeah, that they sold tickets, and it was pretty much full in there. I think it must have been about like 50 people, as you say. And then it felt a bit awkward there to like go behind them all at the end and sit down with the big pile of books, and you all came up one by one and you sign them. You suddenly feel important. But I've been practicing my autograph all day because I never had to do it before, so I was trying to make sure I didn't mess it up. But yeah, it was really good, and everyone who went to it went quite well. So hopefully it did, and as you say, you saw quite a few books out of it. So it's hopefully
good stuff. Yeah, brilliant.
As Peter, I think the time's caught up with us. I think it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. I'm delighted that we've been able to. Really appreciate your time.
It's been really interesting. Thanks, Peter. Yeah.
Just thanks very much for wanting to. And it's been a really good. It's been easy talking. It doesn't feel. I'm always a bit awkward on these things, but I feel like it's been far. It's flown by. So
just three dreads, aren't we talking?
Yeah, that's
it. That's it. Yeah.
No, but thank you very much for having me, and it's nice to speak about the book again. So thank you.
Okay, let's keep in touch anyway, as we are.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. Right, thanks very much.
Right.